This is Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome to Prop Points. Jeff Erickson here with Nick Whalen. We are at Rotowire.com. Check us out, Rotowire.com/VSiN for all of our work over at Rotowire. Busy day coming up. We're going to be talking Final Four. We're going to be talking MLB and NBA news from the last 24 hours. We got John McKechnie swinging on down. They're going to preview the NFL draft, talk about some NFL win totals as well. And finally, we're going to look at today's MLB slate. No day games for the first time since the start of the domestic opening day. Nick Whalen, though, let's start with the MLB. Let's start off a little bit more on the red-hot Dodgers and the Braves, with the ice-cold Braves. Kind of a nice juxtaposition there. Dodgers 6-0, the Braves 0-5. It's just going so badly for the Braves. We'll start on the Braves side of things here first. They ended a 29-inning scoreless streak at least, so huzzah. But, other than that, it's been a really rough time for them.
It has, man. And you look at some of the other teams around Major League Baseball who are off to rough starts. There's some surprises mixed in there. I don't think we necessarily thought the Red Sox would be 1-4. I don't think we thought the Brewers would be getting beaten down every single day as they have so far. Even the Twins maybe at 0-4. A bit of a surprise. But Atlanta sitting at 0-5 and having scored only 8 runs total in those 5 games, Jeff. I mean, I think that is probably the biggest negative surprise so far of this Major League Baseball season. And, the Braves are 2.8% of the way into their schedule. So want to pump the brakes here. Not going to fully panic for a team that has a ton of talent, that'll get Ronald Acuna back, that'll get Spencer Strider back. There is kind of a longer plan here for the Atlanta Braves. But, this is a team that's in a really competitive division, right? I think if you're Milwaukee or Minnesota, you could probably afford to get off to a slow start. Maybe you can claw your way back into those divisions where 85, 86 wins might take it. That's not the case in the NL East.
No, absolutely not. And, the Phillies have gotten off to a good start. Even the Marlins, who are the Marlins, went 3 out of 4 over the weekend there. I'm not really concerned about that from a Braves perspective. But, we were talking last week, we were talking about maybe some of the not to make the playoff odds. And the Braves were at plus 400 to not make the playoffs. That's down to almost to plus 200 now. Still plus money you're getting there. If you think that this is enduring, if you think there's something really actually wrong with the Braves team, there's still some plus money to be had there, but that window is closing pretty fast. Yep. They just lost Erickson Profar, their off-season signing there for the next 80 games with that PED suspension. That means we're going to see a lot of Jared Kelenic, a lot of Brian De La Cruz, especially as we are waiting for Ronald Acuna Jr. to come back. Both Kelenic and De La Cruz are going to have to play for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, this was certainly not the plan. That's just kind of adding insult to injury as far as what has been this slow start for the Braves. Now you lose Profar for half the season, and Ronaldo Lopez ends up landing on the IL with a shoulder injury. They will call up Bryce Elder, by the way, to make the start tomorrow. But that's against the Dodgers, right? I mean, part of this slow start is you look at the schedule that they played, and had to play the Padres. You're never going to feel good about playing this red hot Dodgers team. You got 2 more against them, and looking at the pricing for that game later tonight, it is a late start. It's out in LA. You do at least have Chris Sale going tonight if you are the Braves, but plus 110 on the money line. Total for that one 7.5.
Yeah, they might have the pitching advantage, although I'm kind of low-key intrigued by Dustin May this year. Not even low-key. Yeah. I'm intrigued by Dustin May this year. Added more horizontal movement on his pitches. It's been one of the things that I think teams have been, one of those specifics that teams have been trying to enhance, the addition of the sweeper for so many pitchers in their arsenal there. And I think Dustin May is someone who might benefit from that. He's coming off of Tommy John. This is his first start in a really long time. So I'm intrigued to see what Dustin May can do against them. It has been a very, very rough start for those Braves teams there. It makes you wonder though, too, if do they try to hurry back Acuna? Do they, they've been kind of taking this meticulous approach. They don't want to rush him back. They felt rushed back last time. They didn't want him to run as much this year as part of this. It's his second ACL surgery. Now, is there a sense of urgency now with the Braves? I'm kind of curious to see what happens next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a fair question. My guess is that things would have to get really bad. They're bad now, but they're not really bad for the Braves to, enter a scenario where you're rushing someone like Acuna or Strider back. I mean, these guys are arguably, when healthy, the 2 most important players on that roster. And it's such a long season, right, that I don't think you want to risk anything with either of those guys, given their injury history. So I guess I'd be surprised if we see that. But again, you got 2 more games against the Dodgers. This could easily be an 0-7 start for the Atlanta Braves. Now, to put a bow on this, Jeff, I do want to ask you, I know you've had some success so far this season, kind of taking a look at run totals against volatile pitchers. I know we got Sale on the mound for the Braves, but does Dustin May qualify? Is this a game, given the offense is involved, even with the Braves struggling, we know what they're capable of. Is this one where you would look at the over 7.5 runs?
No, I would not. It's probably a stay away, if anything, for me here. I think May has been vetted as a good pitcher. I just think it's a question of how deep in the game can he go. The fact that the Dodgers had a day off on Sunday, they weren't really having to tax the bullpen last night. Tanner Scott even came in a get work situation in the 8th last night. Makes me think that they'll be okay. One of the things I try to look at is bullpen usage. And one of the reasons why we like the volatile pitcher last night for the Texas Rangers and Kumar Rocker, plus a very taxed upper part of the bullpen. That's one of the reasons why I liked some late runs. And, fortunately, we got a lot of early runs in that one too, to make that over kind of hit pretty quickly on that one there. A lot of 4th and 5th starters yesterday. We're starting to get a lot of first starters here, as the case is with Sale, for instance, as one of them there. So I think it's a little bit of a different situation. So I'll probably, for me, the total is a stay away in that game. Meanwhile, the Dodgers, let's just briefly touch on them. I mean, it's an idyllic start for a team that's considered the big bad. A lot of times you think, oh, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Well, no, they're already 6-0. I mean, they were the big monster in the league, and they're starting off that way.
Yeah, I think, last year you could almost look at the Dodgers as somewhat underachieving, at least in the regular season. I think relative to where that win total sat, relative to the talent on that roster. And, given everything that was happening with this team around the Tokyo series, specifically, with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, you're thinking, okay, is this going to be, kind of a sluggish start to the year? There's a lot going on here. Yeah, that has not been the case. That has not been the case. I mean, this looks like the team that we thought it would be. It looks like the best team, the most complete team in Major League Baseball. But we do have some updated best record in the regular season odds over at DraftKings. Jeff, Dodgers minus 500 right now to finish with the best regular season record. Yankees and those Atlanta Braves, the second short shots at 10-1.
Interesting. So yeah, I like seeing that movement there. It's very interesting there. Another game I want to talk about, the Red Sox. Rafael Devers, 0 for 19, 15 strikeouts. There's, so much talk about him in the offseason, moving to DH. Earlier today on the Sirius XM show, we had Eric Alterman on. We were talking about the DH tax, but I think there's a lot more to it there. And I think the shoulder is a real issue with Rafi Devers. And, he just hasn't had his reps. He's behind. You could just see sometimes, he's just missing on a fastball. He's a little bit late. His swing speed is down. He's down to his 31st percentile in baseball right now compared to, he was in the 60th percentile in terms of swing speed. That's a metric we're just still trying to wrap our hands around a little bit more. Became available last year with a little bit of 2023 data. You can go check that out over at Baseball Savant. I always kind of like digging into this a little bit. And for me, it's seeing the difference is the indicator to me that maybe Devers is not quite 100% yet.
Yeah, that swing speed metric is a really good one. I mean, 31st percentile, that is a big time drop from what we're used to. And obviously this is a guy, it's not like he's just coming off of one great year. I mean, he's been so consistent over the last, 3, 4, 5 seasons that I think this makes this even more concerning. And I mean, we're talking 0 for 19, 15 strikeouts. It's not like he's putting the ball in play really whatsoever. Had another tough day yesterday. Red Sox lose to the Baltimore Orioles. I guess mercifully they're not playing today. He's got an off day to try to get this figured out. But looking at this from a fantasy perspective, Jeff, I know we can look at the betting odds. Rafael Devers opened 25-1 to win AL MVP. That's down to 80-1 right now. Are we already at the point where if you have the ability to, change your lineup midweek, set a lineup for the weekend, that you're thinking about pulling Devers out of it?
I'm not, but I'm also not in that position right now because he was a fade because of the shoulder issues this offseason. Yeah. That I'm not, it'd be different. Like I feel like if I have to actually make that decision in a 15-team league, for instance, there or an only league, you're not going to have a better alternative. If you're in a thinner league, maybe I could see it, but honestly, third base is a thin enough position. I still think it'd be difficult to find a better alternative. It's not like you've got Eugenio Suarez on your bench just rotting away. No, you're playing Suarez if you have him. There's not like that sort of gap. There's not that sort of player that I think that is emerging right now that I'd want to do that. Let's talk Final Four picks, but first we got a quick note to share from VSiN here. Of course, the tournament may be winding down, but the betting action never stops. Major League Baseball is back. NBA and NHL playoffs are around the corner, and the PGA Masters and NFL Draft are just weeks away. Stay ahead of every opportunity with a VEASAN Pro subscription for just $9.99 and get daily best bets from VEASAN hosts and guests, exclusive betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access on the VEASAN Watch app, plus our MLB season betting guide and upcoming Kentucky Derby betting guide. No matter the sport, VEASAN Pro has you covered. Sign up now at VEASAN.com/subscribe for just $9.99. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Okay, Nick. We've been talking about this all week, but we're going to get some early picks in for the Final Four. There's some, we've talked about this before. An historically good Final Four in terms of the quality of the teams. Hopefully the quality of the games follow. Do you got any quick early takes on your early picks here?
Florida and Duke has been my national championship matchup from the start. I'm going to stick to my guns there. If you want to parlay those two teams on the money line on Saturday, you can get that at about 135, plus 135, I should say, at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Looking at the Florida-Auburn matchup, Florida did win the only regular season matchup between these two teams. Gators shot 48% from the field in that game, hit 13 three-pointers. I think Florida's the more consistent team. I think their role players show up more consistently. I think they're deeper than just about any team in recent memory, especially up front. They have bodies to throw at Johni Broome if he starts cooking early in this game. And look, as we talked about with Adam Zdroik yesterday, is Johni Broome going to be 100%? Do we know that for sure? Seen Auburn get off to some sluggish starts so far in this tournament. Not sure you can get away with that against Florida.
All right, very good. I will just say this. I like the Duke side of the Duke-Houston game. We'll talk more about this in depth later. We're talking NBA next on Prop Points.
You're watching Prop Points on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to Prop Points. Jeff Erickson with Nick Whalen. We are from Rotowire.com. Got an interesting NBA slate tonight. As always, we try to hit a few of the highlights from there. Going to start off with VEASAN's favorite team, Phoenix Suns. The VEASAN Suns, as I like to call them, against the Bucks. This is the battle. We were talking about both these teams earlier today on SiriusXM, Nick. Now, this is the battle of the disappointments. Two teams that we expected to do well. Now, the Bucks aren't crashing out of the playoffs or anything, but they're expected to be NBA title contenders, and they're trying to hang on to like the 5th, 6th seed in the East right now instead. Interesting game here because of, the injuries to Durant. Going to be some interesting things on this. What do you like in this game?
Yeah, it's a tough one to break down right now because we have one big injury question mark on the Phoenix side of things. We know for sure Durant's not going to be out there. He's going to miss at least a week. A couple more tough Eastern Conference road games coming up, by the way, for the Suns. So there is a reason that they are a long shot right now just to make the play-in, even with Sacramento taking yet another loss last night at the hands of your Indiana Pacers and Dallas taking an egregious loss to the Nets. But it hasn't mattered because Phoenix is just getting blown out essentially more often than not when they face a good team. Now, do the Bucks qualify as that without Damian Lillard? I don't think they do. Milwaukee, a 5.5 point favorite right now. We will see if Bradley Beal is back tonight. He did go through shoot around, seems to be trending in the right direction, but it's just so hard to have any faith in the Suns team because Durant was playing some of his best basketball of the year before this injury, and it just puts so much on Devin Booker. This is a Suns team that does not have an obvious replacement for Kevin Durant. Not that anybody can replace what he brings, but it's a team full of role players outside of that top two, right? You can't just say, hey, Royce O'Neal, we need you to go give us 20 tonight. Ryan Dunn, right, a rookie who's kind of more of a defender. Nick Richards. They're basically starting 3 non-scorers in that lineup, and then Colin Gillespie, who was in the G League a month ago. So again, I'm tepid on Bradley Beal as far as what to expect from him coming off of another long absence. I would look at Royce O'Neal, however, over 2.5 threes. You can get that at minus 115. KD missed 3 games just before the All-Star break. O'Neal started all 3 of those, averaged 30 minutes per game, went 13 of 28 from 3, went over that 2.5 number in all 3 of those games. He's actually gone over in almost half of his games this season. So you would forecast, nice minutes boost for him. Obviously should be a Giannis spot as well. The Suns don't really have anybody to throw at him. Bucks have been a pretty decent home team this year. So one way out, if you're looking to attack, this from a game perspective, I would look at maybe Milwaukee on the first half line.
All right. I like that approach. I'm kind of low-key intrigued to see if like someone with Dunn helps this team's defense, because they've been so horrifically terrible defensively this year. Like maybe just getting a guy that's a defender more minutes would help the overall balance, the of this team.
It's possible. I mean, the thing is, Ryan Dunn's already been starting for this team even before the Durant injury. Like he's already been playing 25, sometimes 30 minutes a night, so it's like, I think they've already tried that and it wasn't enough of a Band-Aid to fix that team defensively. And I mean, the Suns, it's just been brutal lately, man. It's been brutal for a while, but it's been especially brutal of late. I mean, they are really struggling early in games. That's part of the reason that I like the first half line here for Milwaukee. When Suns have been blown out now in 3 straight, they trailed by double digits at the half in all 3 of those games.
Yeah, they've done that. And yet they're still alive in the for the race to the play-in spot. Sacramento lost again last night. We've been trying to manifest Portland for a while, but they've lost 4 in a row. They do play tonight against the Hawks, a winnable game. Mm-hmm. What do you think happens in this one?
Yeah, I think it's officially over on our long shot for the Blazers to sneak into the play-in. They had their opportunities and just couldn't get it done. So big injuries on the Portland side to monitor tonight. Anthony Simons is questionable. Scoot Henderson's been ruled out. DeAndre Ayton still out. I don't think we see him again the rest of the way. Jeremy Grant is doubtful. And if you have followed the Blazers or followed Jeremy Grant specifically, Jeff, this is nothing unique. He has not played an NBA game in the month of April since 2021. Some of that's been injuries. Some of it's been shutdowns, but that happens every single year. And he's trending toward extending that now to what would be a 4th straight season. So Atlanta coming off a big win over Milwaukee on Sunday, put up 145 in that game. Part of it was Milwaukee just not being a good defensive team right now. Part of it was a really hot shooting night for the Atlanta Hawks. So this is actually a pretty tough game for me to break down. Still like this Blazers team, even though they have kind of played their way out of the play-in. One prop, though, that I do like here is Dyson Daniels, 2.5 steals would lean over there. I mean, you're not getting a great price because it is Dyson Daniels, but Portland does turn the ball over a ton, one of the 5 highest rates in the league. So I would look at Dyson Daniels over 2.5 steals.
All right, very good. Warriors, Grizzlies. We've been spending quite a bit of time talking about the Grizzlies. They've lost 3 in a row, 2 of them after they fired their coach. Mm-hmm. I did some more digging on the coach firing there. I guess I'm kind of okay with it there. That's what happens when you fire a guy, make a coach fire 5 of his assistants and change your offense in the offseason. Yep. You're already on like unsteady ground, but still, they're like the 5 seed in the West. They're still a good team. For all that we've talked about all their flaws for the Grizzlies, they're still a pretty darn good team.
Yeah, I mean, they're above the play-in zone for now. We will see. They lost last night, of course, to the Celtics at home. Lakers end up beating the Rockets, so that was a big one as far as Western Conference positioning goes. So it's obviously the second night of a back-to-back for Memphis. Took that loss to Boston last night, did not cover, scored just 42 points in the second half, which is just another loss by Memphis to another good team. That's been the big thing for them. They beat the bad teams, but they cannot beat the better teams in either conference. They've lost 11 straight games now to teams above 500 on the season. So this number opened at 3 last night. Now it's up to 4.5 in favor of Golden State, which is what we would expect here. Obviously, Grizzlies fired their coach. They haven't won a game since. They're on a back-to-back. It's the 3rd game in 4 nights. To be fair, Memphis has been good in these back-to-back spots. 10-3 straight up, 8-5 against the number, but they are just 2-4 straight up, 2-4 against the spread as a home dog. So this is another line that I look at a lot like the Celtics game last night, Jeff. I'm like, this just feels a little low. It's hard for me not to look at the Warriors here. They've just been playing significantly better basketball than the Grizzlies for the last several weeks. So I lean Golden State here. It's a big game for the Warriors as well as they try to get out of the play-in zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've done so much work just getting after the Jimmy Butler trade just to get to where they are. So yeah, this is a massive game for them. We're going to talk a little T-Wolves Nuggets coming up next, but first, we're going to share, that you're looking to stay ahead of the game. Rotowire has you covered with expert analysis, real-time updates, and the best fantasy and betting tools in the industry. Whether you're making picks, setting your fantasy lineup, or placing bets, our award-winning insights give you the edge you need. Get started today at rotowire.com/VSiN and take your game to the next level. That's rotowire.com/VSIN. Okay. Some suspensions have come down from the brawl from the T-Wolves and the Pistons. I don't know if that's going to have a big impact on this line here against the Nuggets tonight. We're looking more, I think, towards the health status of key Denver players here.
Yeah, yet another game where we have some big questionables. Aaron Gordon is questionable. Nikola Jokic, he's probable, so we would expect him to be out there. But Jamal Murray also questionable for Denver. Now, this line did move from 2.5 to 3.5, so maybe some positive indications behind the scenes on some of those key players for the Nuggets. But like you alluded to, because of that, I guess we'll call it a brawl against Detroit over the weekend. Both Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo have been suspended. They won't be out there tonight. Those are two big pieces, the two best bench pieces for this Minnesota team, guys who've started plenty for this team over the years. So if the Nuggets have their guys, I think this has to be a Denver spot. In terms of the prop market, I'm going back to the well on Jaden McDaniels, Jeff. Over 1.5 threes, plus 150. All right, there's enough value there to reel me back in. Should see a minutes boost, especially with no Naz Reid. He has not been good lately, but he's still gone over this number in 6 of his last 10. Denver does give up a ton of threes. And Julius Randle has actually played pretty well against the Nuggets this season as well. The PRA number is a little bit high for me at 31.5, but that's another one that I would consider. And we do have another prop for this game that we'll talk about later in the show as part of our G-Bank Best Bets.
Back when I used to do the show with Chris Liss, we always used to do a thing called force bets, where we force the other person to take a particular one side of a bet. Because, every bet is supposed to be 50-50, right? Your tone of your voice with McDaniels, like you felt like you were forced to take that bet. I thought it was hilarious. Guess I'll take McDaniels again. But
yeah, well, look, if they're giving us plus 150, they're baiting us into it.
Yes, they are. Sixers, Knicks. And again, the theme here, it's basketball in March and April. Who's going to be able to play? Mm-hmm. Karl Anthony Towns, now questionable in this game.
Yeah, yet another one where we have something that could really swing your opinion on this game. Number moved from 14.5 down to 13. So I think there is some real concern here that this could be a spot where the Knicks, maybe take it easy with Karl Anthony Towns. Certainly a game that you should be able to win without him. The Sixers have no interest in winning this game. They want to protect their draft picks. So something to consider. I mean, that is the number one thing I would tell people if you're betting the NBA right now is just do a little research. Make sure you know the motivations for these teams before you place a bet on either side. Philly's covering at just a 37% clip on the road this season. They've lost 8 in a row. 5 of those losses have come by double digits. They're 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 games as a double-digit dog. So a lot pushing you in favor of the Knicks here. In terms of the prop market, Jeff, I'd take a look at Josh Hart over 10.5 rebounds. If Cat's out, I think that's a really good number. 12, 17, and 17 rebounds for Josh Hart in 3 previous matchups against the Sixers this season. Would also look at McCall Bridges, over 4.5 assists. He's gone over that number in 4 straight. The Philadelphia 76ers allow the most assists in the NBA.
That is going to wrap up our coverage of today's NBA slate. Looking forward to following that. Coming up next on the Progressive Guest Line, we're going to talk a little about NFL win totals with Rotowire's John McKechnie. This is Prop Points.
You're watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Prop Points, Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson, hanging out with you on this Tuesday afternoon. We are pleased to welcome back one of our favorite guests, one of our NFL editors over at Rotowire.com. You can find him on Twitter at Johns_tailgate. It's John McKechnie joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. John, really excited to talk some NFL win totals. Been waiting for these to populate at the books. We got them over the weekend. And one of my favorite things to break down because it forces you to kind of come up with a narrative for each team. You're checking in on the schedule. You got to start doing some early forecasting. So when you took a look at the win totals over at the DK Sportsbook, John, which is the first one that jumped out to you?
So for me, the 49ers are a fascinating team because last year they obviously kind of had to navigate what was effectively a season from hell, right? I mean, nothing went right for them. Even during the offseason, in the lead up to the year, all that drama with Brandon Ayuk, and then Christian McCaffrey has that sort of mystery injury that ends up being something that costs him a lot of time and barely plays at all last year. So, kind of by extension, that you get the benefit this year of playing a softer schedule than they would have previously, playing, I believe, a last place schedule as a result of that. So they do have one of the easier schedules on paper going into next year. So that's all well and good. But I'm not sure that this window for the 49ers is still exactly open the same way that we thought it was even a year ago. Brock Purdy loses a big weapon in Deebo Samuel. We don't really know exactly what Christian McCaffrey is going to look like at this stage, how much volume he's going to be able to take on. Defensive line, the losses that they incurred after their Super Bowl run a couple of years ago didn't really get fixed last year. Still need to fix that going into this year. Mike Clay has them rated as one of the worst defensive lines in all of football. That was a huge issue for them last year. So even with the easy schedule on paper and, the sort of like to quote Peter Shanky, like the plexiglass theory, they were a lot worse than they should have been last year. Maybe they'll be a little bit better. I'm not sure I'm buying it. I'm not sure that this is a team where Brock Purdy is going to be able to elevate them to over 10.5 wins. So give me the under on the 49ers.
Let's talk a little Carolina Panthers. They really loaded up on defense this offseason in free agency, signing Tershawn Wharton, Bobby Brown, Pat Jones, Trayvon Moehrig. They really spent a lot. They are trying to go get Milton Williams, obviously late New England Patriots swinging in with a massive deal to take that from them. But they had a clear problem last year. They couldn't stop the run. They were abysmal against the run. Everything they did this offseason addresses that. Are you buying what they did? Does that portend to maybe liking their over on the 6.5 win total this year?
I'm leaning towards that over, yes. The Panthers going into last year, we were kind of wondering if they were going to win any games. And, through the first portion of the season, we felt pretty vindicated by that take. The Panthers looked terrible. But come Thanksgiving and onward, the Panthers looked a modicum of kind of respectable. And like you said, Jeff, they addressed some of those big needs in this offseason. They still are going to be in a good position to draft some difference makers this year that can make an impact in the year 2025. And I think as much as we wrote Bryce Young off for dead, he really showed some life there at the end of the season. I think that the Chuba Hubbard backfield is a strong one that they can lean on as well. I'm excited what that offense can do, take another step forward in year 3 for Bryce Young. So you're really just not asking a lot, especially when you contextualize it within the NFC South. It's not a world beater of a division. I think we can maybe expect even the Buccaneers to take a step back. We have no idea what the Saints are going to look like, or the Falcons for that matter. At least we have a little bit of carryover from last year to this year when it comes to the Panthers. They win 4 games within the division. I think we're cruising towards that over 6.5. So consider me a believer, an asterisk on it when it comes to the Panthers. I don't think they're a 10-win team or anything like that, but bottom feeders no longer.
All right, there we have it. Certified Panthers guy, John McKechnie, joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. You can get that over 6.5, by the way, at -125 at the DK Sportsbook. Speaking of the sportsbooks, do you want to know where the money is really coming in? Unlike other sources, our betting splits at VSiN come straight from Circa and straight from the DraftKings Sportsbooks, giving you insight into where the sharp action is landing. Circa is known for taking big bets from professional bettors, while DraftKings provides more of a broad market perspective. That means you're getting the real action, not just public money, but the kind of wagers that move lines. You can see the percentage of bets versus percentage of handle on every game across every major sport, helping you make smarter, more informed bets. Go check out VSiN's exclusive betting splits for as little as $9.99 for your first month over at vsin.com/subscribe. It's vsin.com/subscribe. John McKechnie with us here on the Progressive Guest Line. John, let's talk about your team, the Baltimore Ravens. As you'd expect, a high number here comes in at 11.5. Kind of another season of the same thing for Baltimore. Great regular season team, fizzled out a bit in the postseason. I like some of these high number totals. I was looking at KC at 11.5, Buffalo 11.5. Interesting to me as well. But what say you on the Baltimore Ravens?
I just have a hard time seeing a Lamar Jackson-led team losing 5 games in the current NFL climate. Like there's such a top heaviness to the league right now. And maybe that shifts a little bit. And, the Ravens do have a tough schedule this year, having to play that first place schedule in addition to having to play the NFC North, which of course was very, very strong this past year. So, you're having to play the Lions, having to play the Packers at Lambeau. Those are tricky spots in there. There's also a road game at Kansas City to consider. But I think this is a Ravens team that, goes above 500 within the division. I think there's a chance they even go 5-1. And beyond that, it's just hard to see them dropping that many games. They're almost unbeatable at home. They're a little bit more gettable on the road, but I think that this team has made some smart moves this offseason, avoided some key losses, by extension of bringing Ronnie Stanley back on a pretty team-friendly deal. That could have been a real issue for this team going into the year if they had a bigger question mark at left tackle. So I'm just kind of expecting more of the same from what we've seen of this Baltimore Ravens team in 2023 and 2024 going into this year. So I don't see the drop off here. The schedule again is tough. It's top 10 as far as win percentage from a year ago carried over to this year. But still, when you got Lamar Jackson back there, you got to feel good about this team's odds to rack up a lot of wins.
So I'm with you on your Ravens, John, and they are your Ravens. I'm a Bengals fan. We know this too. Just a disclosure fact here. Duke Tobin said he didn't want to spend more money to bring back the same roster. I look at what the Bengals have done this offseason, and they've spent more money to bring back the same roster, minus Trey Hendrickson so far. Tell me why I should be optimistic to cover this 9.5 win total projection here.
I think that the Bengals got so many tough breaks last season. Like, I think on balance that they were one of the best offenses, one of the most explosive offenses in football. And of course the defense, did not hold up their end of the bargain. And that's why, there were so many kind of heartbreaking losses in that season for the Bengals, ultimately keeping them out of the postseason. But I think this is the year that we see some separation in the AFC North, where it's very clearly the Bengals and the Ravens up top. And I think that there's a chance here, depending on what the Steelers do at quarterback, they just kind of beat up on the Browns and the Steelers, who I think are going to both be worse. I think the Steelers are going to be a lot worse this year. I think the Browns I think we know what to expect when it comes to them. So I think both the Bengals and the Ravens are going to be able to kind of bully the rest of the division. And, by extension of missing the playoffs, I think that gives the Bengals a bit of a schedule break. It's kind of middle of the pack as far as win percentages carried over to this coming season. And, Joe Burrow, now you don't have to worry about it when it comes to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins being there in Cincinnati. That's just one less piece of drama to deal with there. I do just kind of feel like that we're in that prime, that pinnacle of Burrow's career and Chase's career and Higgins' career all at once. And I think that, as opposed to last year where they rack up a bunch of points and yards, but lose, I think that we're going to see those kind of flip the other way here this year. The Bengals get into the double-digit win territory, get themselves back into the playoffs. I'm a believer in this Bengals team.
Talking with John McKechnie from Rotowire, joins us on the Progressive guest line. John, not only are you our Ravens insider, but you are one of our NFL draft nicks over at Rotowire. Want to ask you about the Giants. Obviously, they brought in Jameis Winston. They doubled down on religious quarterbacks and bring in Russell Wilson last week. If you look at the odds to be the number 3 overall pick right now at the DraftKings Sportsbook, Travis Hunter minus 140. Is that your expectation? Is Travis Hunter going to be a Giant as of right now?
Well, it's certainly trending that way. I could certainly see the Giants. If they stuck with just Jameis Winston, then I think that a quarterback would have remained on the table. Maybe they trade back and get like a Jackson Dart or something like that. But the fact that they brought in 2 viable guys that you can kind of piece a season together with between Russ and with Jameis, I think they go with the best player available. So I think it's either Travis Hunter. If I wanted to take a bit of a bigger swing, I could make a case for Abdul Carter at plus 250 there. I don't think Shadur Sanders is the pick there at 3 when it comes to the Giants.
All right, there we have it. Great stuff from our guy, John McKechnie. Check him out on Twitter at Johns_tailgate. We'll be checking in with him as we get closer to the NFL draft. 13 MLB games coming our way today. Jeff Erickson, best bets coming up next here on Prop Points.
Watching Prop Points on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into Prop Points here on VSiN. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson here with you, taking you up to the top of the hour. Make it rain with Adam Shine coming up next here on the network. Jeff, no day baseball today, but we got a full slate, 13 games coming our way in the late window. Want to get all your best bets out before we get out of here. Let's start by looking at the Mets and the Marlins. This one is in Miami. Kodai Senga making his 2025 debut, going up against Sandy Alcantara. I know you're looking at some Senga props here, but just overall expectations for a guy that we have not seen much of over these last couple of years.
Yeah, only made one start last year. Senga also was a guy that got a little bit of a late start in spring training. So I don't know what we're going to do with him in terms of, especially in terms of like how deep into this first game does he go? I think the Mets are going to probably treat him a little cautiously. They won in a laugher yesterday against the Marlins, so that the key parts of their bullpen aren't taxed. The Mets didn't even play on Sunday, so I think Senga might have a quick hook. The Marlins aren't especially a high strikeout team. They're not a good offensive team at all by any stretch, but they're middle of the pack when it turns like K percentage at 22%. So I'm going to go a little under on the strikeouts with Kodai Senga. I'm going to go under 5.5 strikeouts. So you get it at minus 145 on DK. That's my play for this game. Other things I kind of like, I kind of like how Alonso kind of came alive last night. So I probably maybe even do a sprinkle on like maybe his total bases bet a little bit there. So that's something else I would look at in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good notes on the Mets bullpen. I would imagine this will not be a 90 pitch type of day for Kodai Senga. If you like the Mets to win this game, by the way, minus 162 on the money line at DraftKings. Marlins a plus 136 home dog. Let's take a look at your team, Jeff. The Cincinnati Reds home again for the Texas Rangers. That'll be Nathan Eovaldi going up against Carson Spears. Big time differential here in terms of the starting pitching matchup, but Reds come into this one hot. Monster night for Elly De La Cruz last night.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about Elly first, and then we'll talk about the matchup. So last night, Elly De La Cruz had a career high 7 RBI, 11 total bases, 2 homers, both moonshots to center field. My favorite at bat might have been the hit that kind of officially broke the game open. Line drive double to the opposite way there. I loved him hanging in on that. One thing with Elly is you always want to see him batting against a right-handed pitcher. His righty-lefty splits were pretty significant last year. Elly De La Cruz is one of the players that has started using the torpedo bat that we spent some time talking about yesterday. Really happy about seeing that. Chris Quick from Yahoo had a brief list of some of the players that are using that bat. I think that list is going to grow in leaps and bounds over the next couple of weeks. Adley Rutschman using that bat. Dansby Swanson homered yesterday using that bat. Ryan Jeffers was quoted in an article on ESPN's by Jeff Passan talking about using that bat. And of course, the Yankees. We know a lot of the Yankees using it. Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm, Paul Goldschmidt, Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, not Aaron Judge though, however. So noteworthy about that. So, I want hitters to win more. And I also want to see my players using that new technology. So this is a perfect confluence with Elly De La Cruz. About tonight though. It's a pretty big gulf in the starting pitching matchup. Nathan Eovaldi pitched very well on opening day against the Red Sox. The Reds are using Carson Spires. Spires is there as a replacement for Andrew Abbott. He is the very definition of a replacement pitcher. Last year, 5.46 ERA, 1.53 WHIP. Against left-handers in particular, he is really rough. 6.04 ERA, 1.66 WHIP. So I'm looking to try to get as many plays as I can in about left-handed Rangers hitters. Build a DFS lineup around that if you can. Keep in mind, it's a 6:40 Eastern time game, so you have to make sure you get the right slate as far as that goes. But let's go Jock Peterson plus 390 for an anytime homer. I know Tyler O'Neill had a great day yesterday. Didn't homer. Let us down on that anytime homer. But I do want I'm going to go Peterson. I like him in that ballpark in particular, but Corey Seager is intriguing for me as far as that goes. I want to get those left-handed Rangers into my lineups for sure. Even like check to see Josh Smith's status, see if Jonah Heim is behind the plate. He caught last night, so maybe not. Yeah. But you want to try to get those lefty bats in against Spires.
Yeah, total in that game sitting at 8.5. So should see some level of offense. And speaking of Elly De La Cruz, by the way, down to 7-1 now at DraftKings to win the NL MVP. Let's take a look at Diamondbacks Yankees, Jeff. This is out in New York. Corbin Burns going up against Will Warren. Another game with an 8.5 total. Money line is pretty close here. Diamondbacks minus 118, Yankees minus 102. If you're interested in that, and Little Birdie told me you might, Jeff, be interested in the Yankees side here.
Yeah, I just don't see why the Yankees should not be the favorite in this one here. I understand why. It's because I actually do understand why. It's the pitching matchup. It's Burns versus Will Warren, excuse me. I get those two conflated all the times. Will Wagner is the hitter for the Blue Jays. Will Warren is the pitcher for the Yankees. Warren struggled last year, obviously, in a very brief trial with the Yankees. So you're betting on him as a risk, but I'm betting on the Yankees bats. And I'm kind of betting against Corbin Burnes, I guess. Burnes has had a 5-year decline in strikeout percentage. The reason why I was kind of off of him in leagues, he was having a good spring until his last spring training outing, where he just got demolished by the Brewers. And maybe it was a game where both pitchers, maybe the conditions were tough. Freddie Peralta also got knocked around in that game as well, just for what it's worth. I worry that Burnes is not going to miss enough bats, and with the way the Yankees are swinging, that ball might carry. Obviously, you want to check the weather conditions before the start of the game, see if there's anything controlling as far as that goes. Right now, looks like it's not really a huge win game, so something to watch for to see if that changes at all. But I just feel like, Yankees at home, this is a good number that you're usually not going to get, so I'd like to take advantage of it, and despite the pitching matchup there. I think I am interested to see what the Yankees do. I might, what the Yankees might do in terms of like how late do they let Warren go into this game coming off the off day. That might be something where they can optimize Warren a little bit more so he doesn't stick around that third time through the order, because the Diamondbacks have a very dangerous lineup. We've seen that before. I'm worried about Suarez. I'm worried about Carroll when I'm backing the Yankees, but I just think that the Yankees lineup will do enough damage against Burnes to make this a value bet.
All right. I wish we could just fast forward through this next one, to be honest, Jeff. I'm no longer looking forward to Brewers baseball. I'm just nervous. I'm nervous when every game begins. The Brewers are a home favorite for the second day in a row, coming off of another shellacking. 11-1 was your final score yesterday. We know about the Brewers, minus 32 run differential through 4 games. Per my research, Whalealytics, that's the worst in MLB history. It certainly felt that way. But again, Brewers are favored here. Monster pitching matchup. Michael Lorenzen going up against Chad Patrick for the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers are just running out of pitchers straight up. They don't even have starting pitchers listed beyond tomorrow because they have so many injuries in that rotation. Do the Brewers get off the schneid? Do they get a win here? What do you like in terms of the prop market? Tell me about Royals Brewers.
Yeah, this Brewers bullpen's been absolutely taxed. And that's one thing I do worry about this one here. I probably would play a little bit of the total in this one here. I think I'd like just the over on this one for obvious reasons. That the Brewers single-handedly have been giving up enough, but it's also the Royals' fifth starter in Michael Lorenzen as well. So I think I might be intrigued with that. I think the Brewers' bats will wake up a little bit. I think Churio will get going eventually. Yelich. I do think there's enough possibility in the Brewers lineup to kind of help and aid in that there, but because of the Brewers pitching struggles, I'm going to kind of lean on an individual prop. I'm going to go Vinny Pasquantino or an RBI, just one plus RBI at 1+130. I like him, and I single out Pasquantino because of the righty lefty matchup. He gets to hit behind Jonathan India and Bobby Witt, 2 guys that are going to be on base a lot there. It's a really ideal spot for the Italian breakfast, as one of his many nicknames as we've had for Pasquantino over the years.
All right. I like it. Pasquantino did have a ribby in that win yesterday for the Royals, had 3 on opening day. It's time for our G-Bank best bets of the night. They are brought to you, of course, by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. G-Bank is up in the ante with up to a $750 bonus for new G-Bank Visa Signature Card customers. New customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from account opening receive a $250 bonus. And if you spend $50K on gaming and sports app loads within the 30 days of account opening, you'll receive another $500 bonus, so potentially $750 in bonus cash heading your way via G-Bank. You can apply now at VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSiN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions do apply. Jeff, I know you got another baseball prop that you're looking at for tonight. Taking a look at O'Neal Cruz.
I do. I like O'Neal Cruz over a half a stolen base. Whether you get one, you win at plus 285 on DK. Pirates have a whopping 17 stolen bases in 5 games so far. They can't do anything else, but they do run. Opposing runners were 62 of 72 against Danny Jansen last year. If it's Ben Rortvedt, it's not any better. They were 64 of 76 against him. Both catchers control the running game.
Love that. Great stat on Danny Jansen. I think you're getting a really good price here. Again, 17 steals already for the Pirates, lapping the field. MLB average right now is like 4.5 for most teams. I'm going back to that Minnesota Timberwolves game going up against Denver. Jeff, gave you a couple props earlier in the show, but one I did not mention, Rudy Gobert, over 11.5 boards. It's a big number, but you're getting this at plus money. Coming off a 25 rebound game. He's gone over this number in all 3 matchups against Denver this season. No Naz Reid tonight for the Timberwolves, so we like Gobert. That's going to do it for us here on Prop Points. Make It Rain with Adam Shine coming up next. We'll be back at you tomorrow. Best of luck.